Today, I am thrilled to welcome Dr. Kathryn Murray to the Always Meaningful podcast, where our aim is to shine a light on those who are transforming education. Dr. Murray is the creator of the Brain Set Environments formula and the founder of Future Strong Education Global Consultancy. Dr. Murray has spent more than 40 years helping educators understand how the environment influences the brain, emotions, and learning. Her work reminds us that when children feel safe, calm, and connected, they are far more capable of thinking, creating, and thriving. Her work aligns beautifully with Always Meaningful Education, and I'm excited to explore how Brain Set and AME come together to support how humans actually grow and learn. Welcome to Always Meaningful Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited for the audience to get to know more about you and your work.
Well, thanks, Alexandra, and it's always a joy to speak with you. So I'm very happy now that we're really letting others into our conversation. So that's the exciting part of it.
That's true. Thank you for saying that. I agree. It's wonderful to be in a position where I get to meet so many wonderful people who are all doing their part to transform education. And I was really inspired by your work by seeing some posts from you on LinkedIn, which I do encourage the audience to please look up Dr. Kathryn Murray on LinkedIn. I'm sure you too will find inspiration. But when I read about the Brain Set Environments formula, it immediately resonated with my spirit because I think you know, and my audience is coming to know that Always Meaningful Education is a framework that I created back in 2019. I started to practice it. It was intuition. It was a belief in me for many decades before that. But I was able to put it into practice in 2019, and I started to see amazing transformations. And when I read about the Brain Set Environments formula, I thought, really, this is an area of growth for me because I have been focusing so much on the way the brain learns when we talk about things like strategies, like interleaving and chunking and Pomodoro technique. And then I started to broaden my awareness to become more knowledgeable and experienced with the ideas around co-regulation and really just understanding how our nervous systems sort of feed off of each other. And that as an adult bringing energy into the space, I could really support my students on an automatic nervous system level. And then when I came across your work, it was as if the universe just knew I was ready to broaden my horizons and start to think more intentionally about the environment and how the environment contributes to our nervous system state and makes learning more accessible in our brain. So before we start on your journey, I just want to thank you again for doing your work because it's such an important piece of our awareness as humans and what we bring to the children. And I've been so impressed by reading your website and seeing how your outreach is truly global. And I just really appreciate your charitable branch as well. That really, really touched my heart to see that you are giving in so many ways beyond just your wisdom and your experience. So thank you so much for doing that. Without
Well, it's
further, oh,
my
please let me
pleasure.
guess. Let me
I
give
was
you a
just going to
chance.
say yeah. I was just going to say thank you, and it's my pleasure. And I think if we all contribute to the world in a positive way, the
Mm,
world's going to be a much better place. We all just do our part, and I hope that I'm contributing in a positive way, and I'm doing my part so that the children that we all care about so much have a better world to grow up into. And I really I do this for the children, just like most early childhood people and teachers generally. They're in it for the children. And I think it's an important role that we play as educators to support, guide, and help develop the future adults that are going to be making decisions about our planet and making decisions about the welfare of each of us. So I think it's really our responsibility as their guardians to give them the best possible start in life so that they can become happy, healthy, productive adults that are well adjusted and can make good decisions for all of us, but also for the
Mm.
planet.
Oh, wow. Well said. You're absolutely right. And I appreciate that you used the word contribution because that's a beautiful segue into us talking about your journey. Because in
Mm.
the always meaningful education model, we bring students through a process that begins with curiosity and goes through a creation stage and culminates in contribution. Because we believe that all of us are uniquely gifted, that all of us can discover who we are, how we learn, how to be the best version of ourselves, and ultimately make an impact in the world, contribute to the world. So let's start with your curiosity. How did you become curious about understanding this connection between our brains, learning, and the environment? Where did it begin for you?
Well, I guess I need to share a little story that I don't always share, but I think it's relevant to this conversation. That when I was born, I had a brain injury, and my parents were told that the brain injury was so bad that I would be severely disabled or I would
Oh,
die. They were the two options, and my parents had to make the decision of whether to take me home and wait for me to die or try and manage the best they
oh,
could or leave me in the hospital and they would put me into some sort of institution where I would be cared for until I died.
wow.
Anyway, they took me home, and with their nurturing and the environment that I was brought up in,
Mhm.
and I've got two brothers and a sister who are older than me. I'm the youngest, so I'm the cute baby of the family, and so mum and dad took me home and just nurtured me like they would the other three.
Mm.
And I was a bit slow with my milestones for the first 2 years, but after that, I seemed to, catch up to everybody. And by about 4, I was sort of on par with my peers. And that was all due to
Amazing.
the environment, I believe, and maybe genetics, or if you want to go into that sort of conversation. But I really think it was the nurturing environment that I received from my family
Mm.
and the wider family, the bigger family and the community that I was living in at that stage. We lived in a little country town. So all of that, obviously I didn't know any of that until I got older. But then I started wondering, what was it that was in my brain? Like, what happened to my brain to go
Mm.
from, the potentially severely disabled to I'm a doctor, I've got a doctorate in
Right.
education. So
Wow.
how did I get from there to there? So I was curious about that. And
Mm.
I was curious about the environments. And when I was a classroom teacher, and I did that for 25 years, I was always playing around with the environments. And I started teaching the children about their brain and how it worked and how we all thought differently and how people's brains worked differently. And so I was always talking to the children that I was teaching about their brains, and they were curious about how
Mm.
things worked and how they could learn things and how they could make decisions about different things. And it just continued. And when I went into the university sector, part of the job there is to research. So,
Mm.
what did I research? I researched more about the brain and about the built environment, as well as a lot of other things. As an academic, you have to be fairly broad. So, I ended up with a fairly broad knowledge base. And then, of course, when I went into my consultancy business and Future Strong Education, um, it was like a no-brainer, really, that I was going to be
Mm.
talking to educators about the way they set up their classroom and neuroscience. But
Right.
at that stage, it was two separate pillars. There was lots of research on the built environment, and there was
Mm.
lots of research on neuroscience. and I hadn't really brought it together yet. I didn't quite know how to do
Mm.
that. But
Before,
as
oh, please go ahead. Mhm.
I was just going to say, as luck would have it, I did a presentation and someone sent me an article that they thought I might be interested in. And when I was reading that article, some of the words popped out in that article, and I thought, oh, this is it. This is how I link these two things together.
Mm.
And the Brain Set Environments formula was born in a coffee shop on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. So,
I love
so
it.
there it is.
Amazing. So before we really unpack your current contributions, of which there are many, I just want to go back a little bit and talk about how there was this creation of awareness happening within you that started to change your perspectives, perhaps your approaches even to learning. And particularly when you were in the university sector, was there anything, as you researched, was there anything that really um, just had a powerful aha moment for you where you thought, wow, this does not match with what I'm seeing in the world? Why is there this research that exists that's telling us here's the way that we should be cultivating environments and supporting learners, and yet it was completely opposite from your experience? Was there anything like that for you? And I'm asking because there was a time like that for me. And I'll just quickly tell you my story. I also pursued a PhD in education, cognitive development, and instruction. And in one of my first classes, I remember learning about some of the conditions for optimizing our brain and learning. Things like watering the brain and just constantly staying hydrated, moving, how important movement was in the body, things like lighting and even color on the walls. And I just
Mhm.
remember feeling like, wait a minute, this research exists, this knowledge is, well, we know it. And at that point, I had already finished bachelor's degree and even one of the graduate degrees in education. And I had never been taught this. And I thought, why are we building schools that are using the kind of lights that don't support us and putting color on the walls that don't support us and making kids sit still when they need to move and not allowing them to have water in the classroom when clearly this is what helps our learning? So for me, it was really eye-opening. And I'm just wondering if you had an experience similar to that.
I think it was more the fascination of the brain. It
Mm,
was just I just find it fascinating that
yeah.
it works, all of the different regions of the brain work together hand in hand, and it sort of really it's like the air traffic controller of our body, it really directs where we go and what we do. And when I also started thinking about the environment in which we live in, work
Mm,
in, learn in, when I started thinking about that and how important the environment is, because literally the environment speaks to us. The environment
mm,
tells us how to think, feel, and act. When really, when we're in a church or a place of worship compared to a rock concert, we think, feel, and
mm,
act in a very different way. And it's because the environment speaks. It tells us what to do. It tells the brain what to do,
mm,
and we respond accordingly. So I think that was probably my aha moment where I thought, this is actually really interesting, and the brain and neuroscience and all of those things. It's always fascinated me since I learnt my own story, and I
mm.
wondered just what had gone on in my own brain to
Yes.
repair it, so that I could lead a normal life,
I
because that
love
wasn't the prognosis.
Absolutely. I was just thinking that I love how a person's struggle, if you will, becomes their story. And
Mm,
I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Quick, but he's a brain coach, and he has a similar story to yours. An injury as a
mm,
child that left everyone thinking he would not, his brain would not serve him fully. And now he
mm.
travels the world helping others optimize their brains. It's beautiful
Yeah,
that those stories. For me, it was becoming a young mom as a teenager and feeling a bit ill-equipped to mother. And I studied early childhood development just so that I could be a better mom. And that
right.
just broke open the curiosity and the passion for helping others understand how humans actually learn so that we could all
Mm.
serve our young people better. Um,
Mhm.
so let's talk a little bit about how you ended up transferring all of this that what was growing inside of you, this new awareness, the connections that you are making. Thank you for
Mm.
pointing out how the brain is all working together, and those connections are so vital to helping us carve our own paths forward. So you were reading this article, and you started to put together these two points that seemed at one point to not be connected, and you saw that
Mm.
connection.
Mm.
Then how did that then carry you through to building the Future Strong Education Global Consultancy? How did that become for you the brain set environments formula? Can you talk to us a little bit about your process that led you to your contributions?
Well, I think it was this huge aha moment, fueled by coffee in the coffee shop, I've got to say. And it was just as I was reading these articles, seriously, I just had all of these things already in my mind. And it was like there was one jigsaw piece missing out of the big picture. And
Mm,
when I took the words from this article, it all fell into place. So, brain set literally was born in that coffee shop. So,
wow.
SET stands for the bottom part of the brain. The brain stem is about survival. The limbic system in
Mm,
the middle part of the brain is about the emotions. So that's
mm,
SE. And then the top part of the brain, the neocortex, is all about thinking, and the prefrontal cortex is all about
mm.
thinking. So it's the SET. So
Wow.
brain set came to
I really
me
like
then.
I like how you also, it's also showing the progression of the input, isn't it, through the brain,
Yeah,
that it's going
yeah,
first through that survival, and whether or not it makes it beyond that is dependent on our state, isn't it? And then also
yes,
through the Olympics, in order to get to the prefrontal cortex, where the thinking is happening, these other systems have to be cooperating. And I
they
think for
do.
our
And
audience, it's yeah, please explain. Yeah, because I want the audience to understand this, what I believe you're
yeah,
about to share with us, how the brain states really impact our ability to access learning.
well, the brain is influenced by the environment. So
Mm,
here's where they come together,
hmm
because that sense of safety has to be there so that, as you said, the emotions can be relaxed and thinking happens. So we have a motto for brain set, and it's a calm brain is a thinking brain.
Oh, I
And so
love it.
when we situate things in our classrooms or our homes or our office space or our anywhere where we have people with a brain, we need to be thinking about my three pillars of design, and the three pillars of design link directly to the levels of the brain, the S, the E, and the T.
Mm,
And in those three pillars of design, there's actually 16 elements, and there's six elements to satisfy the needs of this bottom part of the brain, and there's a five and there's a five
mm,
to that all overlap together. And we want our classroom spaces to feel um, familiar, home-like, and that's addressing the emotions part, the feelings.
mm,
We want children to feel comfortable, feel familiar, feel like it's safe in the space. We want to set up small defined spaces in our room, multiple small defined spaces, because that goes to our safety part of the brain stem, because when we're in a smaller, confined or defined space, not confined,
mm,
defined space, we feel safer, we feel more focused, we're more
mm,
engaged. For classroom situations, behaviour issues decrease because the children are engaged in what they're doing in these smaller spaces. And we have multiple little groups of children all through the room. And now the teacher's job is to go around to those little groups and facilitate conversations and build really deep, wonderful relationships. And there's a beautiful hum in the room because everybody's engaged and everybody's working and everybody's doing things. And it's all based around their interests, their developmental level. The
mm,
teacher observes, she does a lot of observation and adds things into each of the spaces to extend children's learning, and it's just a calm, settled room. The tricky part is um, people think, oh, okay, I just have to set up the room, and it's all about where you put the furniture. It is about that, but it's also about how you teach then. What do you
Mm,
do in the classroom now? Because your classroom might be slightly different, and you're giving children learning experiences to build their skills. So
mm,
that means we need to be teaching a little bit different. We need to be asking really great questions. We need to be bringing in interesting things for the children. We need to bring in a lot of nature into our
mm,
rooms. We need to be mindful of the color. You mentioned that before. And research around the colors that we paint our walls has changed over 30 years. So no longer are the big bright colours the thing. We really need to instill that the colours of nature. So pale
mm,
blues, beiges and pale green and olives, those sorts of colours of nature, because that's calming to the brain, because a calm
mm,
brain is a thinking brain.
right.
So there's a whole lot of things that I
Mm,
offer when I do trainings and work with early childhood educators across the world and within Australia. There's a whole lot of elements that we need to combine to calm the brain. And then when that happens, the room is much calmer, the teachers are much calmer. I've had teachers say that they didn't expect the results for themselves, that they felt
wow.
calm and they
Oh,
can
that's
now talk to
beautiful.
each other. Yeah, the teachers can talk to each other because there's usually two or three in a room.
Right.
And now they feel they're more comfortable because the children are settled and more engaged. So
Mm,
the teachers feel that they have time to discuss things. And this, in the brain set environments formula, can be applied from the babies' rooms in early childhood centres all the way up to the 5-year-old rooms, primary schools, secondary schools. I've even had a university lecturer, and I was training her in brain set how to set up her lecture theatre, so it was more
oh, wow.
engaging for the students. I've had medical
Fascinating.
centres that I've worked with, and a range of different. I do parent sessions as well, and talk to parents about their home, so that
Mm,
we're calming children's brains. So, but mostly I work with early childhood educators because we all want for the best for our children, and we need to start at the
yes,
foundation. We start at the bottom and
I
build a strong
agree.
foundation.
The
Mm,
younger the human, the younger we start with the human, the better off I think that we all
absolutely.
are, because we benefit from them growing up, as you mentioned earlier, as well-adjusted, healthy, happy humans who will ultimately be making decisions that govern the world. And so, yeah,
Yes.
the earlier, the better. I want to ask you, in AME, we have the AME system or approach. It follows three layers. And the first layer is conditions, the second is process, and the third is structure. And I really see brain set environments formula and the conditions layer of AME being really great partners. So I want to tell you what the conditions are for AME, and then I'd love to hear if you could help me expand this piece of this layer in AME so that it can be more inclusive of the actual physical environment. So currently in AME, we define the conditions which make learning accessible as safety, connection or belonging, agency, and now the fourth one is just slipped away from my forefront of my mind. Um, Safety, connection,
Belonging and agency.
belonging, agency. Thank you. I did say it. So,
Yeah, you did say it.
so we want, of course, we understand that the child must feel safe in the environment, that no harm will come to them. We want them to feel connected to school, that is uh, there's personal relevance there, that it's meaningful to them, that they belong, that we want them there, and that they
Mhm.
have a voice, that they have a
Mhm.
say in their own learning journey, in their own development. If you were gonna give me some free consulting right now,
For sure.
how would you advise me to develop this layer in a way that would be more brain set environments formula based?
Well, I'm thinking you've got safety there, and safety comes in lots of different forms. So it's a sense of safety. So for in brain
Mm,
set, it's a sense of safety that but with the brain stem, and the sense of safety means we know that the roof's not going to fall down. We know that the walls are stable. We know that the people in this room are okay. They're not going to threaten us. Look, there's some of them are even smiling at us. It's that sort of thing, so that we have a sense of safety.
mm,
And then, so you've got that. We need psychological and emotional safety as well as physical safety. So there needs to be, that holistic, sense of safety. And
mm,
you mentioned that. And then you said about connection. Well, connection it would be up here where we're talking about the emotions in brain set, where we are connecting to people and we're connecting to others and building those relationships where we do feel like we belong and we feel valued and we feel heard. So you've said about the agency and you feel heard. And it's all about feeling safe, which is
mm,
different to a sense of safety. A sense of safety is
mm,
you look around and yeah, it seems pretty safe. But when you feel safe, and with the way the brain works, how you feel often overrides the logic. So, if
mm,
you think about you walk into a room and, the people are in the room, you think, this just doesn't feel right. Or you walk down a dark street and you think, oh no, this just doesn't feel
mm,
right. And you go back the other way. And that's a whole other conversation about the nervous system that goes down into your gut. So, that tells you doesn't feel right.
right.
Um, but so we have that connection and that sense of safety, and then the feeling safe, which is sort of what you said. You said about belonging, and then when all of that happens, we're up here in the thinking part of the brain, and that's where I think your agency would come into play. Because then we can think and we can articulate what we're thinking because we have this calm brain. A calm brain's a thinking brain. So then we can
Yes.
say and communicate our needs, our wants, our thoughts, our understandings. So, I
Mm,
think probably the conditions are very similar, just a
okay.
different approach.
And how would you advise a teacher who feels that, or even a parent who feels that they have created the conditions, that they've made the defined spaces, that they have filled them with developmentally appropriate, enriching materials, that they have provided a sense of connection by personal touch points, welcoming students, eye contact,
Hmm.
and they're giving them a sense of agency by help having opportunities for them to make decisions within their environment, and they still have a little guy or a little girl who seems dysregulated.
Yeah.
How would you advise them to create better conditions or to support that young boy or girl?
Well, I would actually ask them to step back and observe and just watch.
Mm,
And just see
mm,
where that little person goes. Do they always go to a particular corner? Do they
mm.
always gravitate to particular people? What's happening for that child? I have a saying that is look with curiosity, not animosity. So,
Ah,
look behind the behaviors, not don't get upset about it and think, oh, what's wrong with this child? I've done all this work and the room looks great, and this child's just trashing it.
mhm. Mm,
Don't go that way. Start thinking, I wonder what's going on for that child. Look with curiosity. I wonder what's going on, or I wonder what it is in this environment that isn't quite right for that particular child or those children. And maybe you set up what you think is a beautiful environment, and you think you've got agency, and you've got, it's rich with feeling as though they're loved and wanted and all that. You think it's like that, but perhaps it's not for the child.
yeah,
So,
that's
look at
yes,
yourself, look at the child, but mostly it's the environment. You haven't got it quite right.
right.
So there's either something that's a little bit boring, doesn't really resonate with the child, so that maybe the child is wandering around thinking, well, there's nothing really very interesting here to do. You think you've created a
Mm,
great space, but maybe for the child, you haven't.
wow,
So I
that's
would suggest
powerful.
observe, watch.
Observe, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And the
much can
child
be
will tell
gleaned.
you. Yeah,
I
the
was just
child
going
will
to
tell you
say
through their
that
movements.
that yeah, through their actions, where they gravitate to and where they don't gravitate to. So
Mm,
much can be gleaned from just observing a child.
mhm,
I recently finished a program called Applied Educational Neuroscience, and one of the
mhm.
things that really stuck with me is thinking about behavior as communication. And I
Right,
just
it is.
love how you use that to be curious about the behavior, to wonder where is it coming
Mm,
from? What could be happening internally for this little boy or girl that's creating what I see as dysregulated behavior. So yeah,
mhm,
thank you for pointing that out. Being curious about the behavior is such a for me such a profound way to view
mm.
it. Just as that behaviors communication really struck with me. And since then, I have really looked at not just students, but even AME learning facilitators through this lens of what
Yeah.
is that behavior telling me? And now I will be adding this idea of being curious about the behavior, which
Mm,
really resonates with me. So thank you
mm.
for helping me form that filter a bit better as I engage with students and learning facilitators. So now I'm working with some students that are older, and I know you also bring brain set environments formula into the workplace because, as you've already pointed out, wherever there's a brain, we can
Yeah.
benefit from understanding how the brain learns. Do you
Yeah.
have any tips that would be useful for older students or things that maybe you have advised for the workplace level that those
Mm.
of us who do work with older students or adults could yeah, could really just absorb and apply in our different environments.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, our brains are the same. They're just a little more matured. For a
Mm,
5-year-old to a 25-year-old to a 45-year-old, it's just the maturity process. But we all
mm,
still have the three levels of the brain. We all still do have a brain stem. So we do still all need to have that sense of safety. We all need to feel as though we're valued and acknowledged and wanted at work. And then, or it's at school. And then, of course, then we can think a lot clearer because when you take a moment and pause and think about this, when we are feeling under threat, when maybe there's some conflict at work, or you're not prepared, or someone raises their voice, or whatever it might be, and you feel a little threatened, there's a
mm,
spike of cortisol that floods into the top part of the brain, into the neocortex. And when that flood of cortisol, the stress hormone, floods up the top there, it's very difficult for us to think. We still can think,
mm,
we can still talk, we can still remember, we can still make decisions, but not as easily and not as well.
mm,
And often when you're having a conversation with someone and you're in that state, you walk away and you think, why didn't I say that example? Why didn't I tell them that story? Why didn't I explain myself a little better? And it's because you can't, because you're in a state of foggy brain, because there's so
mm.
much cortisol. But when you
Wow.
walk away and you take some deep breaths and you have that oxygenated blood going through your body, and then you think, oh, why didn't I say that? Because now your brain is calm. A calm brain is a thinking brain.
Mm,
So that's what we need to remember. So in a classroom with older children or high school or even those university students that I mentioned earlier, or a workplace, we still need to make sure we have that sense of safety, that people feel as though they're valued and wanted in the space. So with students, they still need to have smaller defined spaces. Putting people in big rows doesn't work. It doesn't help with the brain design. Putting people in big groups, so groups of 6 or groups of 8, that's a lot too to deal with if you're in a
mm,
work situation or if you're a student in a classroom situation, an older student. That's a lot to work with as well. Because when you think about it, if we were in a big conference now and we were having this conversation and you were asking me these questions or I was asking you questions and we had to stand up in front of 300 people and talk, we'd be going, oh gosh, this is a little bit, it's a bit scary
yeah.
not to do.
Yes.
But if we were just sitting together in the room and we were just talking to each other, it's much more relaxed. It's much easier for us to just have this conversation. And it's the same with older students. in a classroom situation, if they're sitting in maybe a group of just two together or maybe four, it's much easier for them to talk to their neighbour across the way or next to them than
Mm,
if they feel that everybody in the whole room is listening to them. So it's less threatening. So
that
helps
makes
to calm the
perfect
brain.
sense.
Yeah, and having little
Yeah.
dividers up, so having plants in between,
Hmm.
the groups of four, and just breaking it up a little bit, having floor lamps, table lamps, soften things. Turn off the overhead lights if you don't need them. If there's enough natural light, and you can put on some lamps. And the lamps aren't actually for the light, the lamps are for the ambience, the feeling, the
Right.
warm feeling.
That
The
warm,
warm
homey
feeling. So we're
feeling.
up, we're up
Yes.
here. Yeah, we're in the limbic system. We want the warmth and the cozy feeling. So that's what that's all about. So putting all of those things together, it helps to have a clear brain. And so if you're at work, you're going to be much more productive. You're going to enjoy your workspace. You're going to relate to your colleagues easier because you're in a place where your brain is calm. So there's, less sick days because people actually want to come to work because it's a pleasant
Mm,
environment and bringing
wow.
things in from home. Their favorite chair or something from home or a throw rug that
Mm,
they can put over their chair in the workplace, having some plants on their desk and having some photos, having a nice painting on the wall behind them
mm,
from home to make it feel more comfortable and home-like. So we're up
right.
here now in this limbic system, feeling familiar, feeling comfortable, then we
Mm,
can relax because it's all familiar. We know these things around us and it's very comforting. So our brain
yes.
can relax a little bit. So a calm
Yeah.
brain is a thinking brain. I
Is a
come back to
thinking. Yes.
that.
That is definitely going to stick with me for sure. I really appreciate all of that feedback. I was thinking about the AME environments and feeling that I think we're doing a pretty good job of making our spaces feel cozy and making sure the groups are not more than about 6 students at a time.
Mm,
But I really hadn't thought yet about this idea of bringing the home into the school environment and having students um, bring little personal things that remind them of home, or even hanging some things up around their little spaces to just further create that feeling of safety, of home, like of comfort. So that's definitely something that I'm going to take away and encourage AME facilitators to do with the students, to just bring a new element into the classroom so that
mm.
a calm brain will be a thinking brain, is a thinking brain.
That's right. You got it. You got it.
Well, Dr. Kathryn Murray, Kathryn, before we close, I just want to ask you a couple more questions. One is if you have any other advice that you would like our audience to walk away from. And the last one would just be for you to help people know how to find you, how to see more
Mm.
of your work. So please share with us.
I- I'll be happy to. So the The one thing that I often say to people is when you're looking at the environment, it doesn't have to be complicated. If you're thinking that, oh gosh, my environment is all wrong, it's not, it doesn't have to be a big overhaul. When I work with educators, we do the training and then I work with them in their rooms and we do, make over their room. But it doesn't have to be a big makeover. It can just be I call it a small but significant change. So it
Mm.
could be just putting round placemats on a square table because the sharp edges of the square indicate to the brain that it's possibly a threat because it's sharp.
Oh,
So there's a little
yes.
ping, there's a little ping of cortisol that goes up
Wow.
into the brain, particularly for young children, because remember their brain is immature, it's still growing.
Mm.
So if we can have rounded corners, round tables, or a square table, but with a round placemat or a round bowl or something on it to
Wow.
add those rounded edges, it helps to calm the brain a little bit. And that's just a small but significant change.
Yes.
Or
Wow.
opening up some books and putting them on the table and suggesting to the children what they could do. And by
Mm.
suggesting, I mean do half start a drawing or something, and then just walk away and leave it. So when a child comes, they go, "Oh, I could do some drawing here." So it's a
Wow.
suggestion. So
A
it's a
suggestion.
small,
I love that.
yeah, it's just a small but significant change. And the other thing I mentioned earlier, and that is to just um, not interfere, step back, and just observe. And the children will tell you where they gravitate to and what they're interested in doing. They will tell you. You can map the room basically by watching the movements of the children. So
Mm,
just step back and observe, and just don't feel like you have to intervene or constantly be talking or asking questions or facilitating. Sometimes the best teaching is done when we just back off and leave them to it and just
uh,
get out of the way. So,
yes, I couldn't agree more on that point. And I do want to encourage the audience to see your before and after photos on thefutureofeducation.com, which I had the pleasure of viewing. And wow, those transformations, I mean, like night and day. So yeah, people can go onto the website and see firsthand some of your before and after photos. So well done
yes,
on
yeah.
those.
Thank you. So yeah, so I have a couple of websites. So
Future
futurestrongeducation.com
Strong.
is one that people can find me, and the other one is brainset.com or brainsetformula.com. I can't even remember my own website.
It'll
So
come to you
I
after
think
this has been
yeah,
over.
that's right. I think it's brainsetformula.com. And there are a couple of ways, or you can just Google my name and I'll come up, I'll pop up
Yes,
there
I was
too
just gonna
if
say,
you're
yeah.
interested in the work that I do and want to know a little bit more about the Brain Set Environments formula and how you can use it in your own space, whether that be an early childhood classroom or another space. We all have a brain, and so we need to support the brain wherever we are. And a lot of that is due to the environment that we create for the brain to settle in.
Absolutely. Well, Kathryn, thank you again for your time, for sharing your wisdom and your gifts with us and the rest of the world. I really
Thank you.
applaud your effort, and it seems that it's spreading, which is what we want. We want more people to understand how their brains and bodies learn so that we can cultivate environments and learning experiences that enhance them instead of hinder them. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for
Nicely
your
said.
work. And you're on LinkedIn as Dr. Kathryn Murray. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. So you can
As
find me there too.
another resource.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
that's where I found
Instagram
you.
too.
So,
There you go.
oh,
Instagram
great.
is Future Strong Education on Instagram. So you'll find me.
Yes, I was just going to say, if you just type in your name, everything
Yeah.
pops up, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, Dr. Kathryn, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Alexandra. It's so nice to chat with you once again.
Yes, thank you. I look forward to chatting again in the future.
Absolutely.